Have you ever heard of an African kingdom that willingly embraced Christianity, sent ambassadors to Europe, and tried to regulate the transatlantic slave trade all the way back in the 15th and 16th centuries? It might sound like a plot from an alternate history novel, but this was the reality for the incredible Kingdom of Kongo. Today, we are diving deep into the story of this powerful and sophisticated Central African state, a story of innovation, diplomacy, faith, and ultimately, a tragic struggle for survival. The story begins around the year 1390, along the fertile banks of the Congo River. A dynamic leader named Lukini Luanimi united several smaller territories to forge a new, powerful state. This became the Kingdom of Kongo, a highly organized and centralized monarchy. At its peak, its influence stretched across what we now know as parts of Angola, the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Republic of Congo, and even Gabon. The heart of the kingdom was its capital, Mbanza Kongo, a bustling city that impressed early European visitors with its size and complexity. The ruler of this vast domain was the Mana-Kongo, a title meaning Lord or Ruler of Congo. The Mana-Kongo wasn't just a king, he was the political, military, and spiritual leader of his people, presiding over a sophisticated court with governors, officials, and a well-structured tax system. For nearly a century, the Kingdom of Kongo grew and prospered, developing its own unique culture, trade networks, and political structures, largely unknown to the outside world. But all of that was about to change. In 1483, a Portuguese ship, captained by the explorer Diogo Cao, sailed up the Congo River. This was the first encounter between the Congo and a European power, and it marked a pivotal moment in the kingdom's history. Unlike many other first encounters, this one started not with immediate conflict, but with curiosity and diplomacy. The Mana-Kongo at the time, Nzinga and Kuwu, was intrigued by these newcomers, their ships, their technology, and their religion. He saw potential benefits in establishing a relationship. The Portuguese, for their part, saw a powerful, organized kingdom, a potential ally and a gateway to the riches of Central Africa. This led to a fascinating exchange. The Congo sent emissaries to Portugal, and the Portuguese sent missionaries, masons, and carpenters to Mbanza Kongo. The initial relationship was one of mutual respect and exchange. The Congo elite began to learn Portuguese, adopt European-style clothing, and, most significantly, explore Christianity. In 1491, Mana-Kongo Nzinga and Kuwu was baptized, taking the Christian name João I in honor of the Portuguese king. This adoption of Christianity set the Congo apart from many of its neighbors. But it truly flourished under João I's son, Nzinga Mavemba, who took the throne in 1506 and is famously known as King Afonso I. Afonso was a devout and intelligent ruler who fully embraced Christianity and saw it as a tool for modernizing his kingdom and strengthening his own authority. He made Catholicism the state religion, corresponded directly with the Pope and the King of Portugal in fluent Portuguese, and established a royal school. He even sent his own son, Henrique, to be educated in Europe, who later became one of the first black bishops in the Catholic Church. Under Afonso's rule, a unique form of Congo Christianity emerged. It wasn't just a copy-paste of the European version. Instead, it blended with traditional Congo beliefs and spiritual practices. Christian saints were often associated with local deities, and the cross, known as the Colonial, became a powerful symbol integrated into existing spiritual frameworks. This syncretism created a vibrant, localized faith that was truly the Congo's own. But this golden age of diplomacy and cultural exchange had a dark undercurrent: the rapidly growing transatlantic slave trade. Initially, the trade was small and controlled, fitting into existing Congo systems of servitude which were very different from the brutal chattel slavery the Europeans were developing. But as the demand for labor in Portuguese colonies like Brazil skyrocketed, the trade spun out of control. Portuguese merchants began bypassing the Mana-Kongo's authority, dealing directly with provincial governors and fueling conflict to capture more people. King Afonso I quickly realized the devastating impact this was having on his kingdom. His letters to the King of Portugal are some of the most powerful and heartbreaking documents from this era. He pleaded for the Portuguese to stop the illegal kidnapping of his subjects, even noblemen. He wrote, "We cannot reckon how great the damage is, since the merchants are taking every day our natives, sons of the land and the sons of our noblemen and vassals and our relatives. Our country is being completely depopulated." He wasn't trying to end all trade, but to control it, to ensure it was only prisoners of war or criminals who were sold, not free people stolen from their homes. He wanted teachers and missionaries, not slave traders. But his pleas fell on deaf ears. The profits from slavery were too great for the Portuguese to ignore. The struggle to control the slave trade and maintain sovereignty defined the later history of the kingdom. After Afonso I's death in 1543, the Congo faced increasing internal and external pressures. The insatiable demand for slaves fueled rivalries between provincial nobles, weakening the central authority of the Mana-Congo. Ambitious governors would wage war just to capture people to sell to the Portuguese, undermining the very fabric of the state. This internal strife culminated in a series of devastating civil wars in the 17th century. The Battle of Mbiwala in 1665 was a catastrophic turning point. The Congo army, led by the Mana-Congo Antonio I, was decisively defeated by the Portuguese. The king was killed, and the kingdom descended into chaos. Rival lineages fought for the throne, and the once unified state shattered into smaller, competing factions. The great capital of Mbanza Congo was abandoned and fell into ruin, a symbol of the kingdom's broken state. During this period of civil war, a remarkable figure emerged, a young noblewoman named Kimpavita. Claiming to be possessed by the spirit of Saint Anthony, she preached a message of unity and restoration. She taught that Jesus was born in Congo, that the Holy Family were from Congo, and that the kingdom should reunite and drive out the foreigners. Her movement, known as Antonianism, gained a huge following, and she briefly succeeded in reoccupying the old capital. She was a symbol of resistance and a call to restore the Congo to its former glory. But her challenge to both the established church and the warring political factions was too great. In 1706, she was captured and, with the complicity of the Congo king Pedro IV, condemned as a heretic and burned at the stake. Although she was killed, her message of a uniquely Congo identity and resistance resonated for generations. Even after the civil wars ended and the kingdom was nominally reunited, it was a shadow of its former self. It had lost its central power, its wealth, and much of its population to the slave trade. For the next 200 years, the Mana-Congos ruled with greatly diminished authority, often as little more than puppets of regional warlords or the Portuguese. The final blow came in the late 19th century with the scramble for Africa. European powers carved up the continent among themselves, and the remnants of the once mighty kingdom were officially divided between Portugal, Belgium, and France. In 1914, after a Congo revolt was suppressed, Portugal formally abolished the title of Mana-Congo, bringing over 500 years of history to an end. The story of the Kingdom of Congo is a powerful, complex, and often tragic one. It challenges simplistic narratives about the relationship between Africa and Europe. It was a kingdom that wasn't just a passive victim, but an active participant on the world stage, a state that embraced new ideas, forged international alliances, and fought desperately to control its own destiny in the face of the overwhelming destructive force of the slave trade. Its legacy lives on in the art, language, and culture of Central Africa, and in the spirit of a people who created a unique and powerful civilization. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the history of the Kingdom of Congo. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into forgotten histories. Let me know in the comments what you think, or what other historical topics you'd like to see covered. See you next time.